Oh dear, this is not going very well, is it? But anyway, let's get on with recording this ramble and then I can go home and have some wine. How you all doing? Welcome to Reese Rambles, my weekly wrap-up of all the stuff that's been going on in the worlds of retro gaming, retro tech and all the rest of it. Hope you're having a lovely time. And of course, it's a 3-day weekend here in the UK, which is something to look forward to. Although I'll probably end up spending some of that time here because my current video project is being a right pain. But hey, I choose to do this. This is my hobby and I enjoy it. It's just not good when things don't go to plan. But I'll talk about that in a moment anyway, because it does actually tie into my first news story this week. So let's just dive straight into that because it's an Atari thing and I like talking about Atari things. So this is the 7800 Plus. Look, I'm on the wrong image already. But yes, the 7800 Plus, it's the new version of the Atari 7800. Of course, they released the 2600 Plus not all that long ago. Huge fan of that. I thought it was an excellent piece of hardware, just a little ARM-based SoC emulator box thing, but it actually took real cartridges and you could plug all of your original joysticks and things into it, which was really cool. And it's just a lovely thing. And in fact, I've got mine. You know what? There it is. Let's take a look at it because looking at it makes me happy. And that's what I need today. So, yeah, that's the 2600 Plus. 2600 Plus, of course, runs 2600 and 7800 games. The 7800 was, of course, the console that was released in 1986, and it's quite an interesting console in its own right because, I mean, for a start, it wasn't actually developed by Atari. It was made by a third-party company called GCC. And the reason all of this is fresh in my mind is because I am working on a video about the 7800 at the moment. But we'll just talk about this first. So the 7800 Plus, it comes with this CX78 Plus joypad, which is a wonderful looking thing. I do have a couple of the originals knocking around, and I actually really like these gamepads. I think they're quite nice. And of course, they've got this weird little screw-in joystick thing as well. And it looks like the new version is also going to have that. Of course, the new version is wireless. It is Bluetooth and also comes with some kind of wireless D9 plug-in adapter, so you can use it with your original hardware as well, which is really cool. And this 7800 Plus also comes with a new game, Bentley Bears Crystal Quest. So, yeah, you get quite a bit for your $129.99. I think I might have to have one of these because it's... I just love the 7800. It's just such a cool console, such a cool story behind it. But they've also announced a pre-order of a wireless version of the CX40 Plus joystick, which is quite cool. Of course, when they released the 2600 Plus, it came with wired versions, wired recreations of the original iconic Atari joysticks. They've now done a wireless version that apparently works with both consoles, which is really cool. And this is all sounding like, and they haven't really said anything either way on this, but this is sounding like this is basically just a 2600 Plus in a 7800 shaped case. Now, there's a very good reason that I say that, and that's because they're now marketing this entire thing as the Atari Plus platform. So as it says on the website, the Atari Plus platform games and accessories are backward and forward compatible. Consoles, accessories and games work together and are also compatible with most original accessories and cartridges. So I think what they've done here is they've taken the guts of the 2600 Plus, they've put it into a nice 7800 shaped case. They've released a new gamepad and a new game alongside it to try and incentivize people who own the original to also buy the new one. And, it's quite a nice thing. Of course, if you're not a massive Atari fanboy, it's probably not worth owning both. So I guess you would pick the one that you want depending on the looks that you prefer. The 7800 had a really sort of sleek, futuristic, black and brushed stainless steel look to it. Of course, based on the 2800, which was the Japanese version of the Atari 2600. And then, the 2600 Plus, of course, had the wood grain. So a bit of a bit of variation there depending on which option, I guess, looks best in your living room and which area you want to sort of live in mentally. But yeah, cool thing this. I quite like it. I do quite like it, even if it is just a repackaged version of an existing thing. Of course, if it is, then the 2600 was developed by PlayOn, a British company, and yeah, just a big fan of the hardware and stuff. And the way that this all kind of ties into my current video project. Let's go back to big camera time, shall we? So, yeah, this board that you see on the desk in front of me with all the wires and things sticking out of it, this is from an Atari 7800, the original version. And something really weird happened to me this week. So, it was Wednesday, or was it Tuesday? No, it was Tuesday. I was sat and I thought, I really need to get around to finishing my 7800 video. I'd been making a load of notes. I've got the whole history of the console written out, and I was thinking, yeah, let's finally do something with the 7800. I'll get it modded, get the S-Video and composite video mod in there, of course, the Ultimate Atari Video. And a bit of a power supply mod, which I'll save for the video itself if it ever comes out. And I was sat and I was just making notes and thinking, right, okay, yeah, this is how we're going to do this. I'm going to come to the studio tomorrow on Wednesday and I'm going to start work on this project. And believe it or not, had my notes open right in front of me, and what should pop up but an email from Atari announcing the 7800 Plus. And I thought, right, okay, there's going to be a lot of interest in the 7800. So what better opportunity to kind of jump on this and actually make it happen? And I've made the first 9 or so minutes of the video, and it got to a point where I was kind of getting ready to demo the hardware, and it just didn't work. So hopefully I'll be able to get it working. I do have a few options. I do want to give a massive shout out to Dan from retrofied.uk, who incidentally also sent me this Atari clock that you probably see in the background. No sponsorship thing going on or anything like that, but he saw how frustrated and annoyed I was with the whole situation yesterday, and actually sent me his 7800 on a pre 1 p.m. Next day delivery service, so so I could actually get on with the video, which was incredibly nice of him. So thank you to Dan, and I think the least you deserve is a shout out and a link to your little web shop selling retro computing knickknacks down in the description. But yeah, it's just been a bit of a frustrating time because I just want it to work. But hey, it's fun. It's electronics. I've learned a lot of stuff as well. I've been through the whole diagnostic process. I've got my oscilloscope out. I've got pins that are high when they should be high and pins that are low when they should be low. Got a reset circuit that's resetting when it should. I've got oscillators oscillating. I've got logic gates doing logic things, and I've got clocks where there should be clocks. So very puzzling, that one, but I'm sure I'll get to the bottom of it, and if not, hopefully I can get Dan's working and at least have something to show for the video. But anyway, that's the first story, the Atari 7800 Plus, all looking very exciting, and my own bodged Atari 7800 project. So let's move on from that and on to something a bit more cheerful. My next story for this week is less of an actual news story and more just a thing that I spotted on social media that I thought would be quite interesting, and I know you're going to like this. So this concerns a system that I don't really know much about. That system being the Commodore 64, which you can see on the shelf behind me in all of my videos. That one was very, very kindly donated to me, so thank you. You know who you are, Bitter Blitter. And all of the, I got a load of cool accessories and stuff with that. It's on my list of videos to make, so I will take you on that journey when I first experience the C64 for the first time, I promise. But this popped up, and I thought this looked really cool. So this was posted by a chap called Dan Tootle over on Blue Sky, which everyone is saying is going to be the next Twitter. I don't know, but yeah, I think he's known as like a journalist and a writer and that kind of stuff, but kind of dips his toe into all sorts of different retro things, and we've followed each other for forever, I guess. And he's posted these pictures of a clear Commodore 64 case, and he says that Retrofusion just posted some pics of the first production bread bin cases to be produced since the 1980s. They've done an incredible job here. I am stunned. Can't wait to get my hands on one of these beauties. And I must admit, I looked at the pictures and I was stunned too. I mean, this thing looks so cool, doesn't it? I mean, these old computers in clear cases. Of course, there have been clear cases for, the original Macs, the Amiga, the NES, the Spectrum, all sorts of stuff over the years, and now the C64 bread bin model has joined them. And I did some Googling on this, and Retrofusion have posted a video on their on YouTube, although it's unlisted, so I think I probably got this from Dan's post. But you can see this thing rotating away. They've got like a nice backlit keyboard and stuff. Quite kind of subtle backlit keyboard, kind of somewhat tastefully done. Not usually a fan of those on these older systems, but hey, if you're going to build something like this, why not make it look awesome? And I did yet more digging and discovered that this was actually part of an Indiegogo campaign. So this is, I believe this is an Australian company. And they basically had this Indiegogo campaign for these replacement Commodore 64 cases. Like Dan says, the very first ones to be manufactured since the 1980s. And they offered a range of colours. In fact, they've done an online colour selector where you can go and pick your colour combos and stuff. So you can pick what colour keys you want and what colour case you want. If you were lucky enough to be a backer of this project, which unfortunately I did miss the first time around. But yeah, the latest development in that is that there is now a crystal clear, transparent version. And I love transparent electronics. I just think it was such a kind of cool era in the 90s. We got stuff like the iMacs and things like that, the Game Boy Advance, and now the Commodore 64. So yeah, that's going to be a thing soon. Not quite sure when they're going to be available for sale. I couldn't really find much information on this, but just wanted to show that to you because I like it. I like cool stuff like this. So while we are still on the topic of awesome crowd-funded things, and yes, we are still indeed on the topic of awesome crowd-funded things, something else came up on my radar this week that I wanted to bring to your attention, and I really like this. I've backed it myself, and I wanted to put it out there because I love a good book. I've got a good selection of these, these hardback books about gaming history and stuff at home. I don't have them here at the studio to show you, unfortunately, but I'm a bit of a fan of them, these little coffee table things, and I like supporting the people that make them because they're very much people kind of after my own heart who are interested in the history of all of this stuff and educating and entertaining people. Anyway, without further ado, let's have a look at this. So this is Kim Justice. This came up on my YouTube recommendations. I've been watching Kim's channel for the longest time. Of course, she's a bit of a is stalwart offensive? I don't know, probably is. But yeah, she's been around forever on kind of the British gaming YouTube scene, goes to all the shows and stuff, and just a lovely individual all round. And she has announced this week that she has written a book in conjunction with Numskull Designs, of course, the people you might know for their lovely Christmas jumpers and officially licensed retro merchandise. And it's all about 80s arcade machines. So what they've basically done is they've gone out and they've tracked down over 100 of these arcade cabinets, and they've taken really detailed photos of them, and of course written all about the history of the actual games themselves and about the companies behind them. And it just looks like a cool thing. I love the pictures. I love how the cabs are kind of, they're actually used. They have like bumps and scrapes and things on them. They're not pristine renders. Got the original screens, the original CRT screens and stuff. And this book's just going to be a lovely object, I think. So wanted to give a bit of a shout out to this. It has already met its goal, and indeed one of the people that backed it was me. And my name will be appearing in the book as a backer. If you back it to a certain level, you can get your name in the book, as is often the case with these things. But I was just really kind of drawn to the pictures of little details on the cabs, the control panels, and that kind of thing. And because Kim's involved, I know that it's going to be well researched and it's going to be very interesting. So, yeah, that's that. Kim Justice's new book, Arcade Decades 80s Edition, a coffee table book. I will link to that and, of course, anything else that I mention in this week's Ramble in the usual places. And on the topic of YouTubers, that brings me around quite neatly to my video of the week. Of course, my weekly feature wherein I recommend a video what I have seen on the YouTubes this week. And I'm not quite sure where my kazoo's got to. I think it's probably buried under this pile of junk somewhere, so you're just going to have to imagine. But I do have another prop, and again, it's something from my studio backdrop. Isn't it strange how all my stories this week seem to be related to that somehow? Wasn't by design. I've just got far too much junk here. And it's this thing, the Flip video camera. Look at this. How cool is that? Of course, it started life as a single-use digital video camera that you could get from like CVS pharmacies in the US, I think. It runs on a couple of AA batteries, records very basic 640 by 480 video, and it basically fueled the early YouTube boom. I mean, this thing came out around, I think it was 2007, around the time that YouTube first started and was first starting to get big. And indeed, I made a video about this very camera on my channel a couple of years ago. So just before we get to the video that I'm going to be talking about, there is this one. I'll link to this as well if you want to go and check it out. But I must admit, I would probably recommend that you watch the other one that I'm going to choose as my video of the week. So yeah, there's a fascinating story behind this camera. It was very short-lived. It spawned a whole range of different variants and things, and like I say, was kind of responsible for those early days of YouTube. And this video is over on Crazy Ken and the Computer Clan, as I know it. I think it's just called Computer Clan, but that's what it always used to be known as. And Ken is very, very good at this kind of stuff. Does these really deep dives into the history of some of these gadgets and things. And he's basically told the entire story of the company and the founder of the company, what they went on to do afterwards. And he also managed to get his hands on basically all of the different models of Flip video camera from Pure Digital and demos them, shows off the video quality and kind of how they work and stuff. It's just a really fascinating video. So yeah, cool piece of technology. Of course, I'm into my cameras and stuff as well. And a cool piece of YouTube history. So I recommend that you go and check that video out. It is 28.5 minutes long. And like I say, Ken's just a lovely chap, and he don't half make a good video, so well worth checking out anything over on his channel. Pong is a game with which I would think most of you would have at least some familiarity, and I would have thought that most people would be aware of Pong. I mean, it's such an important historical game and, such an iconic thing, isn't it? Of course, there was the Atari arcade game way back in 1972, all those famous stories of the cabinet getting jammed up with quarters and stopping working. I think that's been disproven since, hasn't it? I think that was actually a bit of an urban legend. And then they went on and made a home version in 1975, and the reason I mention that is because I have one here, but I am overdoing it with the props in this week's Ramble, so I'm not going to go and fetch that and show it to you. But of course, because the gameplay of Pong is so kind of classic, but so kind of simple on its surface, but also there's a bit of a kind of complexity to it once you really dig into it. Because it's so familiar and because it's such an easy thing to reproduce, it has also been the subject of many an experiment over the years. People hooking all sorts of weird things up to Pong or creating weird versions of Pong that work in all sorts of strange ways. And yeah, people training rat neurons to play it. I think they did a few years ago. Did they go on to play Doom, maybe? And then possibly start a podcast. I'm not sure. But anyway, yes, someone has taught something else to play Pong this week. So let's have a look at that. This is on nature.com, and I must admit I've been seeing this everywhere, so I just did a search for it, and this was one of the top results. The headline here is AI made of jelly learns to play Pong and improves with practice. Inspired by neurons in a dish playing the classic video game, researchers show that synthetic hydrogels have a basic memory. So yeah, this isn't some kind of artificial intelligence. I know that's what they're claiming in the headline, but it really isn't. It's not some kind of living neurons or living thing. It's jelly. It's a synthetic hydrogel. How weird is that? So yeah, it basically, I mean, what is a hydrogel? Let's skip a few paragraphs ahead. And it says here that Hayashi and his colleagues, of course, this is that person responsible for the experiment, turned to hydrogels, jelly-like materials that are used for a variety of applications, such as components for soft robots that contain charged particles called ions. When this type of hydrogel is electrically stimulated, the ions move through the material and drag water molecules along with them, causing the hydrogel to change its shape. This change in the distribution of ions influences the next set of particle arrangements. It's like a physical memory. So we're talking about like kind of almost like a logic gate type of thing here, but it's like a computer made of gel. It's such a fascinating thing and such a good story, this. Quite a short one, but yeah, it says here, at first the hydrogel hit the ball about half the time, but it increased its hit rate to 60% in around 24 minutes. So I think this thing's actually better at Pong than me, indicating that the material updates its memory of the ball's movement using the pattern of ions. The improved performance also resulted in longer rallies, the periods when the ball is in play. The researchers conducted control experiments that involved feeding the hydrogel the wrong information about the ball's position or making it operate blind by not stimulating it at all. That meant the position of the gel's ions did not accurately reflect the game on the screen. Hydrogel's Pong play showed no signs of improvement under these conditions, suggesting that it gets better only when fed the correct information. So there we go. It's not only rat neurons and the rise of AI that we need to be fearful of, but now the hydrogels are coming for us too. So thank you ever so much for joining me this week. A bit of a shorter episode just because I've got to get stuff done and get this out there, and because of the aforementioned issues with my current video project. But hope you enjoyed it nonetheless, and lots of interesting news stories and indeed a video of the week for you to go and dig your teeth into. So hope you enjoyed that 3-day weekend that we have here in the UK. I think the weather's actually looking to be quite promising, which is always good. Get your barbecues out. It might be one of the last opportunities of the year. But to everyone else, thank you ever so much for joining us once more. And I shall see you, usual time, usual place, next week. Bye.